Now, you covered the Independence Day ceremony today, didn't you? What was the mood like?
Well, the general feeling since the full-scale invasion has been that large gatherings of people are a security risk. And so, in a way, ceremonies since 2022 have been more low-key. The general public is kept well away. You have the visiting dignitaries. Volodymyr Zelensky always comes up with a morale-boosting speech, as he has some talent for. I think the world concurs about that, but there's more of a low-key atmosphere with minor celebrations and cultural events across the country and among Ukrainians abroad. You can tell, though, that although the commemorations may be low-key, independence is probably a more important event, Independence Day I mean, in the minds of Ukrainians than it was before the full-scale invasion, because they feel as though they are fighting their country's war of independence right now, and that Russia wants to destroy Ukrainian independence. You can see that not only from the speeches made by Volodymyr Zelensky, but also on social media. So many posts today, both by prominent figures, political commentators, politicians, journalists, also just by ordinary people, very emotional, talking about how they feel about it, posting pictures from previous Independence Day or from events since 2022, talking about what Ukraine should do now. Most really, though, in that spirit of saying we've got to preserve our independence. One that struck me particularly was posted by Mustafa Nayem, who used to be a journalist, then went into politics and was the guy who called for protests on Maidan in 2013. He posted a copy, a facsimile of the notebook that he actually found, I think it was back in the early 2000s, of the original draft of the what was read and passed in the Ukrainian parliament on the 24th of August 1991, written by the member of parliament Levko Lukyanenko, who'd been a dissident and advocate of Ukrainian independence most of his life. He was 63 when that historic vote happened, and he lived until 2018, so he lived for another 19 years in an independent Ukraine, having fought for it for most of his life. Now facsimiles of that document which Mustafa found, and apparently that wasn't the first time he'd posted pictures of it on social media. They're actually now being sold for charity in one of Ukraine's supermarket chains. It's incredible that it's just written on an ordinary scrapbook that you can buy in any stationery shop, the kind of notebooks, I mean, that children take to school.
So indeed, another wartime Independence Day there. But Ukraine also launched fresh drone strikes on Russia today. What's the latest situation then on the ground?
Well, they claim that they've hit the gas terminal at Ust-Luga, which is a very, very important terminal for Russian gas exports. It's near St. Petersburg, so it's an impressively long distance from Ukraine as well. But I don't have any independent confirmation of exactly the level of the damage there. Certainly the Ukrainians are talking it up. They're also talking up a few successes on the front lines in Donbass, where they say that they've taken back a few villages. At the same time, in other places, though, Russia has clawed away yet more territory, claiming more villages and advancing now not only in the southern area of Donetsk region near Pokrovsk, but also in the north of Donetsk region near the city of Liman, where until recently the front line had been holding rather better. So certainly the Russian summer offensive is not over yet.
So as the fighting continues, there's been at least one positive development, though, today. A prisoner swap took place in Belarus, with Russia and Ukraine exchanging 146 prisoners of war and civilians from each side. What more can you tell us about this? And could this open the door to peace talks?
I don't think it has any particular bearing on the peace talks. They've been having successful prisoner exchanges for some time. It seems to be the only thing they're able to agree on. One thing that's notable today is that there were 8 civilians released, and among them 2 journalists, one of whom is Dmytro Khilyuk, who I made a report about back in May. I went to visit his elderly parents. He's their only son, their only child. They're in their 70s. They were really worried that they were never going to see him again as long as they lived, especially because there were terrible reports about the condition that he'd been held in, the way he'd been treated, and his very seriously deteriorating health. But today I was messaging with a colleague of mine that we did that report with, Stas Kozluk. He went to the border to meet the prisoners as they were released, and he said that Dmytro Hilyuk seemed to be in not too bad condition. He has lost his teeth, but he's not too badly underweight, and so it's a moment of great joy for that elderly couple. Of course, unfortunately, there are still thousands of Ukrainians whose relatives, whether they are soldiers or civilians, are still reported missing, thought to be held by Russia, but with very little information about them coming from the Russians.
Gulliver Cragg, our Ukraine correspondent, reporting from Kyiv. Thank you so much.